The President calls on President Buhari to sign electoral bill immediately. EFCC acting chairman vows his commission will get Dizani in compliance with the 72-hour court ultimatum. In international news, search and rescue operations underway for 5 missing U.S. Marines after warplanes collide off Japan. In the sport, 9,000 athletes ready for 19th National Sport Festival.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Nigerian Senate President Bukola Saraki says President Muhammadu Buhari should sign the 2018 electoral bill urgently. Saraki issued a statement in Ilorin which he said the president should not listen to anti-democratic elements and rise above petty politics to ensure this is done without further delay. He said this would be in the best interest of the country and would enhance democracy. The Senate President said there are only a few days left in the 1-month timeline provided by law for the President to sign the bill presented to him by the National Assembly. He said the President has the right to either sign into law or refuse assent to a bill. But he decries what he calls a wrong tactic of using the court system to stall the bill. He said the survival of democracy, its development and the future of Nigeria are far more important than the ambition of an individual or party. Former National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Chief John Odigoyego, has called on aggrieved party members to embrace peace as the 2019 general elections draw closer. He said they can do this by warming up to the Peace and Reconciliation Committee set up by the National Working Committee. The former party national chairman, who was addressing journalists in Abuja, also said nobody is happy about the party current crisis. Those problems involve Governors Abikunle Amosu of Ogun State, Rochester Okorocha of Imo State, and Abdulaziz Yari of Zamfara State, who are at odds with the party chairman, Adams Oshiomhole, who had refused to recognize their preferred governorship candidates. Those candidates have now defected to other political parties. Oshiomhole says he would only appeal for peace so the party would approach the elections as a united force, a united voice, and a united party. The ripple effect of the last All Progressives Party primaries are beginning to show as the Lagos State Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, Olawale Oluwo, resigned from his position and renounced his party membership. He has also defected to the opposition People's Democratic Party, where he says he would work to get the PDP candidate Jimmy Agbaje elected as Lagos State Governor. Oluwo said in a letter to APC chairman his decision was based on the primary process that led to the defeat of incumbent Governor Akinwumi Ambode. He said the process created a moral burden for him and that he found it difficult to justify the party's conduct of that October primary election, which he said was marred by massive voter disenfranchisement, intimidation, violence, undue influence, and non-compliance with principles of democracy. He said the policies and programs of the state were being frustrated by what he called a powerful group for self-interest. He warned there would be more defections in the coming days. The Forum of Non-Governmental Organizations, FOGON, has petitioned the U.S. government making known its displeasure in the alleged issuance of a travel visa to Atiku Abubakar, a presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, ahead of next year's election. The group also stormed the U.S. Embassy in protest with placards that accused Atiku of money laundering and highest level of financial crimes. The group says granting Atiku a U.S. visa signals to Nigerians U.S. interference in the nation's politics. The group's national president, Wole Abiodun, called on the U.S. Embassy to withdraw the alleged visa as accused Atiku of money laundering. For almost 13 years now, Atiku has been unable to enter the United States following an allegation of money laundering. U.S. Senator William Jefferson, who was accused of conniving with Atiku on the alleged crime, was jailed in the U.S. after the FBI retrieved $1 million from his freezer, purportedly proceeds of crime.
We were jolted that America be the bastion of democracy, rule of law, and transparency in public administration can debauch into the habits of being used by discredited and renowned financial criminals in our country to score cheap political goals.
The Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation has explained why the Central Bank of Nigeria revoked the licenses of 154 microfinance banks and 6 primary mortgage banks. NIDC Managing Director Umar Ibrahim says the revocation took place because the entities were losing their capital base. They had poor liquidity, they had inept management, and the insiders gave themselves loans they did not intend to repay. This explanation was given by NDIC controller of the Kano Zonal Office, Bashiru Nuhu, during the 2018 Kano International Trade Fair. Nuhu said depositors would be paid once NDIC had verified depositors and their claims. The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASAN, has warned against the sales of the nation's 4 refineries as being rumored. National President of the Union, Comrade Olabode Johnson, said at the 5th Triennial Delegates Conference of the Executive Council of the NNPC branch of the Union that such sales would shortchange Nigeria as a nation. The union suggested alternatives to the federal government that it should hasten work on the rehabilitation of the refineries to erase the disparate reports from different sources that have been causing confusion. It was not quite a day after a Makadi High Court granted a Ganishi order requested against Benue State government that it vacated that same order on the request of the Benue State government. The court had ruled that all Benue State accounts are garnished by United International Technologies, to whom the state owed close to 850 million naira. The state had requested that the court garnish only its first bank account that has enough money to repay the debt instead of all its accounts. The court granted the request and gave the state access to all its accounts except the first bank account. The acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ibrahim Mago, says this commission will definitely meet a court ultimatum to arrest former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Zezani Alison Madueke. She's to answer to allegations of graft. Mago says this commission needs fewer than 72 hours to comply with a court order. The FCC was ordered by the court to work with other security agencies to arrest and produce the former minister. Mago says this commission would inform the court of any constraints it may face because Alison Madueke has resided in the UK since 2015. He said EFCC has already begun legal process towards repatriating her to Nigeria to face corruption charges. Mago said the $300 million alleged designing loot is still stuck in the United Kingdom.
We cannot wait endlessly like this. I think 3 years and above is sufficient for you to take her to court. There is no court process going against her. There is no prosecution. Nobody is prosecuting her there. So that's why I say let us initiate extradition initiative so that she can bring her, she'll face it. The rest of the law.
Coming up, African stories, lives at risk in Sierra Leone as doctors go on strike. And later, international stories, 5 U.S. Marines missing after warplanes collide off Japan. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. Doctors in Sierra Leone's public hospitals have begun a strike action on Wednesday to protest against low wages and poor working conditions. Nurses said they may follow suit. A Freetown's corner, the country's biggest hospital, some wards were nearly empty. Sierra Leone's Medical and Dental Association say doctors stopped going to work on Tuesday and was ready to continue their protest indefinitely. Association Secretary General Mamadou Balde said doctors need proper tools to do their work. Nurses at Connaught Hospital are looking to join the strike on Friday if the government has not resolved the issues by then. There has been no comment by Health Minister Alpha Wuri except that he expects a resolution in the coming days. The 2018 South African Police Services Crime Statistics Report showed that femicide increased by 11% over the last 2 years. The gender violence topic is once again on the agenda as the international campaign 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence kicked off last week. For far too long, impunity, silence and stigma have allowed violence against women to escalate to pandemic proportions. Saliso, one of the gender activists, recently talked about her long and frustrated abusive experience for China Global Television Network. She survived an abusive relationship in which she endured grievous bodily harm from the father of her child.
I was abused by the father of my youngest daughter. Like I said, I've got 2 daughters, and it really, it took me 11 years to speak out about it, which means that I was literally living in my own internal prison for about 11 years. And it was basically 10 years after I had broken up with him. And, I went through the ordeal. It was really awful.
Malawi's Anti-Corruption Bureau has arrested a top police commander and a businessman with ties to President Peter Mutharika on Wednesday over a graft scandal that has embarrassed his government ahead of polls. Mutharika has previously been dogged by questions over whether he profited from the award of a $4 million contract to supply rations to the police force. The arrest came at a sensitive time for Mutharika, who is preparing to contest elections in 2019. An anti-corruption bureau statement says the Central Region Police Commissioner, Innocent Botomani, who was police head of finance at the time of the transaction, will be charged with fraud, abuse of office, and acquiring proceeds of crime. A leaked investigative report alleged that Karen paid $200,000 into the accounts of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party 1 day after receiving payment for the rations supply deal. Chinese ambassador to South Sudan, Ho Jiawendong, has signed South Sudan's peace agreement on Tuesday in Juba to be an international witness. The event was witnessed by Ismail Wais, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, Special Envoy for South Sudan. China is urging the international community to support the peace progress in South Sudan. It says the current agreement provides an opportunity for South Sudan to end its conflict and focus on development.
The South Sudanese people and the South Sudanese conflicting parties, and also IGAD countries and the international community, to make sure that the implementation of the peace agreement will be a successful one, will be a fair one, will be a democratic one, and will be benefit the population of South Sudan.
IGAD, the East African regional body which mediated the peace deal, says it was signed in September this year. Violence has significantly reduced in the country, and it says the implementation of the peace deal is progressing well.
The important thing is that all these committees decided to implement this project and this agreement from and within Juba. No more meetings outside Juba. And this simply means also it shows the trust and the confidence between the parties on this agreement and to one another. And this is really a very big step forward for the people of South Sudan.
The signing of the peace deal with China as a witness is seen as an important step for South Sudan because it provides the international support for the deal. Juba has been keen to secure this as it tries to implement the agreement and is determined to bring peace back to the country. The refurbishment of Nelson Mandela's captured site where he was caught is to be completed in May next year. It is being done as a tribute to his sacrifices and to provide a good place for citizens to pay their respects to the late iconic leader. Nelson Mandela was the South African anti-apartheid revolutionary political leader and philanthropist. He served as South African president from 1994 to 1999. In August 1962, Mandela was arrested on a road in Howick, about 100 kilometers outside Durban. That historical event eventually saw him spend 27 years of his life in prison. The Nelson Mandela capture site stands as a memorial to his arrest and sacrifices and is a powerful tribute to the major role he played to secure the country's freedom and democracy. When we return, international news, search and rescue operations on off Japan for 5 U.S. Marines missing after military planes collide. And later in sports, thousands of athletes ready for Nigerian National Sport Festival. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and World News. 5 U.S. Marines have gone missing after a falling plane and a fighter jet collided mid-air and crashed into the sea off Japan's southwestern coast on Thursday. Japan's defense ministry confirmed its maritime forces had so far found 2 of the 7 Marines who were on board the aircraft. One was in stable condition at Marine Corps Air Station Iwakuni, while the second had been found about 10 hours after the collision and brought on board a Japanese military vessel. Reports say 6 helicopters and 3 vessels from the self-defense forces are involved in search and rescue operations. 3 people died and 24 others were injured in a suicide car bomb attack on police headquarters in Iran's southeast on Thursday. Shooting was also reported in the area located in the region of Sistan Balochistan, which is home to a Sunni Muslim minority in the largely Shiite country and has long been plagued by violence from both drug smugglers and separatists. The state news agency IRNA reports some 24 persons had been wounded. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. Iran had stepped up security in border areas after gunmen opened fire on a military parade in Iran's southwestern city of Avaz in September, killing 25 persons, almost half of whom were members of Iran's elite Revolutionary Guards Corps. Meng Wanzhou, chief financial officer of Chinese telecom giant Huawei, has been arrested in Canada and faces extradition to the United States. Wang Zhou is wanted by the United States and a bail hearing has been set for Friday. The ministry added it could not provide further details due to a publication ban that was sought by Meng. Earlier this year, U.S. media reported that the U.S. was investigating Huawei for violating sanctions on Iran by selling network equipment to the country. Reacting to Meng's arrest, Huawei said in a statement that it was unaware of any wrongdoing by its executive, adding that it complies with all applicable laws. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and its allies are working towards cutting oil output by up to 1.5 million barrels per day, but could fail to reach a deal if no compromise is found with non-OPEC Russia. OPEC meets on Thursday, but is waiting for news from Russian Energy Minister Alexander Novak, who flew back from Vienna earlier for possible talks with President Vladimir Putin. Novak returns to Vienna on Friday for talks between Saudi-led OPEC and its allies. OPEC hopes to prop up the price of crude, which has fallen by almost a third since October, but U.S. President Donald Trump has demanded it make oil cheaper by refraining from output cuts. We'll take a break and I'll be back with sports. Stay with us.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store anywhere in Nigeria or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand.
Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got South. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit.
And that's in the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, cnnafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CNN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.